Baratunde, we admire your joy, your commitment, and your impact to this work. It is with deep humility and gratitude that we present the Smith Nature Symposium Leadership Award to you. Please accept this award created by Hee-Young Kim, internationally renowned botanical artist and founder of the Botanical Art Academy at Brushwood Center. Hee-Young is a talented teacher whose work resides in the collection of the Prince of Wales, among many others. At this time, I welcome Baratunde Thurston and invite him to the stage.
Please put your hands together for Gail, y'all. And while you're doing that, keep the hands going for Bill and for Donna. Doing great work up here, you colorful team. I've been to a lot of auctions and a lot of galas, mostly as MC myself, and I have never seen such an efficient, effective, ruthless method. But it's like the Midwestern nice way of stealing money from people. And it's like just with a smile and like a passive, oh, you think we're done? No, 105's in. We could do this all night. Literally, we could do this all night. Congratulations on the haul. It's worth it. We're all at Jackie's party. What's up, Jackie? How you doing? And we're clearly going to be at Tyler and Eliana's party in the near future. Congratulations, y'all. Congratulations. I appreciated the introduction and the very kind remarks of things that people said about me or things that I have said about myself or us. I was not the 35th president of the United States, just to reference that. Somebody got you a little bit on the bio there. But I agree with John F. Kennedy. That we should, in fact, endeavor to do the things that are hard, that bring us together, and raise the bar for what we need to accomplish, how we need to enter this future together. I had things jotted down and remarking and thoughts I knew I wanted to share, but seriously, when I heard the word wetlands and the youth program, I was taken back to my youth in Washington, D.C. And I've forgotten about this little memory of an early outdoor exposure. I've talked a lot about my mom and the Boy Scouts and her trying to keep me safe from the streets of DC in the 80s with the crack and the guns and the whole thing. That's all really well documented. What I haven't shared very much is when I was in high school, I took an environmental studies class, and our teachers were these radical, lefty, tree-loving, beautiful men named Dan and Dave. And they encouraged us to do these special projects that would get us out into the wild. And so me and my boy Marcus, and you can tell he's black because I called him my boy Marcus, we decided we want to roll and do some wetlands project. And our teachers connected us with an organization called Earth First. Make some noise if you heard of Earth First. All right. There's a lot of silence, so let me fill in some of the blanks. Earth First is a very aggressive organization in defense of our ecology, of nature. The government has sometimes referred to them as terrorists. They're not, but they're very aggressive. And so 2 little black boys go out into the wetlands in the DMV, in the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, and we're canoeing. I see you, Lillian. We were canoeing down these streams and trespassing, technically, across these sites where construction companies and developers were trashing the waterways. And they were not using appropriate silt screens. And we collected samples. And we stayed out way longer than we were supposed to. And as we were coming back, me and my boy Marcus and these activists, I hear this voice, Marcus! It's his mama. Because we were supposed to be back hours ago. And this was before the cell phones. And that moment was this beautiful intersection of the blackest family I knew, of the most earth-loving activists, protectors, water-protecting people in this space that we were trying to hold the line and remind us that we have this other way that we can connect, besides poisoning, besides extracting, besides building too fast and destroying homes for some to create homes for others. And I strayed from a lot of that work as I pursued technology and pursued answering other questions. You've heard about the podcast, How to Citizen, where we take citizen as a verb. The principles behind those developed heavily in conjunction with my wife, Elizabeth, here. Thank you, my love and my partner. When I got the letter about this award, I don't get a lot of awards. I present a lot of awards. It's a very big deal for me. And I saw what this organization stands for, even the way you talk about community as human and ecological. We are swimming in the same waters, moving with the same currents. The principles of citizen as a verb that we promote are that to citizen is to show up and participate, like assume we have something to do. They are to commit to the collective and to understand that we are more than just our individual selves. That if we expand the concept of self to something greater, then we can still be selfish for a larger we and not a tiny me. To citizen is to understand power, all the different ways we can generate and share and contend for it peacefully and vociferously. And most essentially, to citizen is to invest in relationships with yourself, with others, and with the planet around you. And so seeing the way that this organization talks about community as human and ecological, and knowing that I didn't copy that off your website and put it on our website or vice versa, we're moving in the same direction. And as I've been on my own journey to figure out what it means to be a person, what it means to be an American, what it means to be a black person in America, what it means to exist on land that is stolen and unacknowledged and filled with torture and blood and pain and displacement, and also land that is ready for and already undergoing renewal and regeneration. There is a whole nother story happening out there that is not the doom and gloom story. That is not the story of separating ourselves from that which is an essential part of ourselves, which is this natural world. We are stewards. We are temporary co-inhabitants and co-authors of this story that we live inside of. And I am so excited that I get a chance to do this with the America Outdoors Show. I'm so excited that I get to temporarily help you celebrate what you're doing every day with all these programs and all these community groups to reforge that connection. The truth is the future's coming real fast. It's very destabilizing. It's economically destabilizing. Jobs are moving about. It's technologically destabilizing. It's climatologically destabilizing. I've been to Maine and seen lobstermen become kelp farmers. It wasn't something they were necessarily eager to do, but they had to, and they've done it. I've been with the salmon people in the Salmon River in Idaho who see the salmon as their brothers, their siblings, and they've wept as climate change has challenged the lives of the beings that helped their lives be possible from the beginning of time. I've also witnessed regenerative ranching and so many positive efforts to reconnect us with this part of ourselves so we can enter the future together. I think when we look at all the possibilities that are coming, you know this, we have to connect with the land again too. I'm very emotional. I'm thinking about my mom. I'm thinking about people who aren't here. I'm thinking about people who aren't here yet and our obligation to them too. And I know two deep truths, and they're one is a very hard one, and one is a very light one. and they're both simultaneously true. The very hard truth is that we're in difficult times. We are in the intersection of multiple crises, and something is dying. Something we've known, something we've been taught, something we've inherited. Sometimes we call it democracy, sometimes we call it capitalism, sometimes we call it the status quo. It's not fit for us anymore, and we have to let some of it go. It wasn't designed for all of us to begin with, and we need to take an opportunity to mourn that. We are losing species, we are losing communities, we are losing ways of life and practices, and that is worth honoring. It's a real, true fact, and it's a hard one. I don't want to glaze over it. At the same time, the light truth is that there's something else being born, and that we have always adapted, and nature is a cyclical thing, and when we put ourselves back in that cycle, we adapt as well, and we can help nature adapt. As Louis Hina, who I met on the Rio Grande, says, when we heal nature, we heal ourselves. When we heal ourselves, we heal nature. And so we have to also celebrate the new life, even as we honor that which is passing. And I'm grateful to you all for the work you're doing at that powerful, paradoxical, poetic, beautiful intersection. And thank you so very much for letting me be a part of this for one night. Appreciate y'all. Staying here. Thank you.
We have a couple of questions. You know, you may have thought that was the easy part.
I forgot all about what I agreed to here, okay?
Yeah.
I was like, at peace, I'm out, let's go. Now I'm in the hot seat.
The only thing I can tell you is that they are hard because Bill and I are not the ones who've come up with these questions. It's our young folks.
Oh, no, not the
Yes,
kids,
yeah,
no.
Here we go.
They speak truth.
So just want to warn you to be prepared.
I'm ready. I'm buckled in.
Yeah. So
I just had a last minute inspiration.
I just want you to enjoy, though, that lovely chair, too. That's
It is a
another
lovely
reason.
chair.
We got the chairs, so I figured even though you gave this great talk, and maybe we should just let you go, we got to enjoy these chairs.
We got it because somebody put these chairs up. Give it up for the crew who put this whole thing together. Thanks, all y'all. I also think your last paddle standing game, the way you extracted that money, there's some people in Washington, D.C. right now having a difficult time. And I just think sometimes it's not about the people, it's about the process. And you have innovated on a budgeting process which we could benefit from in this nation at these difficult times.
I just need to get Tyler. You know, that's my only thing, is to work with Tyler. He can do the counting afterwards. I could never have done that. So, Bill, why don't you head first and ask one of the student questions that you have?
Well, thank you. Eliana Burnett, our Youth Environmental Leadership Award recipient, asks, what has surprised you the most in making America outdoors?
I know there's like so many of them, and the stories are so
Yeah,
so
no, the
great.
snakes were surprising.
And you've got your season. You've got your season coming up, so maybe one from the
Yeah, from the current.
or
I mean, we're
surprise
on
about
air right now.
producing or behind the scenes or anything.
From a technical perspective, it's surprising how hard it is to make a TV show. Y'all notice? Anything you see me do on camera, I did multiple times. I do my own stunts. And you do it for one camera, then you do it for the other camera, and then sometimes something slips and you do it again, and so it's a very physical job. I didn't understand. I'm like, oh, I could paddle. Now they do it 5 times. Oh, now this is a workout. Okay, you're my trainer. Okay, thanks, America. So that's surprising. I think more substantively on the stories that we've encountered, what's been surprising is how people, like the variety of ways that people are creating a new story of the connection to nature and what we can do with it. I knew that this was out there. Even from our podcast, we've leaned into these themes of like a renewed democracy that's possible.
to physically go out into the world and experience it in multiple geographic areas, in multiple political domains. From indigenous folk to very conservative folk, from black and white folk, northern, southern, different. That was so cool. Everywhere I went. I was talking carbon credits and conservation with the first female commissioner of gaming and fishing in Arkansas. I was mentioning this new novel business model, and she's like, oh yeah, we're looking into that. I was like, do you know where you live?
Yeah.
She's like, do you know where you are? I was like, okay, checkmate, you got me, sis. That was surprising because that's not the story we hear about us. We hear about them.
Right.
You know, and so I got to find some other
I was
versions of
thinking
that.
if
That
you
was very
found the
surprising.
red states surprising.
In multiple ways. In multiple ways. Not always beautiful. That was a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Because I like to accentuate the positive.
Yes.
There is, I also like to be real with you, you know, and I think there's, I was in North Florida, which is the South. I was in Arkansas and parts of New Mexico. I see a lot of pain and a lot of sadness and a lot of frustration. You know, people are under siege. There's a lot of fear. And, you know, book bans, fears about children and their sexuality and their sexual identities, and the knee-jerk reactions and the performance that a lot of the elected officials are doing to prove something or to gain clout based on accentuating someone else's pain, because that's the cheapest path to power that they know how to pursue. That's not surprising, but it is part of the contradiction in the land. Yeah.
Well, I've got a question for you as well from Tyler. It's not a math question, so don't worry.
Thank you. Thank you, bro.
And you did kind of hit on this, but I can see why he would be particularly interested in how you got involved in exploring nature. You've already talked about part of that. But is there, I mean, you mentioned a couple seminal moments. Is there one perhaps that you could share with Tyler?
It's, I think my mother was very, sometimes I feel like I don't give her enough credit. Sometimes I feel like I give her too much credit. And maybe that's just the right amount of credit. And she's not around for me to say, like, how much credit should I be giving you? At least not physically around anymore. So I just have strong suspicions that she mostly knew what she was doing. She was also winging it. Because you don't really know, right? But she had an intuition. My mother grew up, she was born in 1940 in DC. I was born in DC. Her parents were born in DC. So we got 3 generations of Chocolate City people. It's really rare. It's a small town. And the outdoors was important to her. She gave me this name. We talked about this a little earlier. My name is Baratunde, which is based on a Yoruba name from the people of Nigeria, the name Babatunde, which has a literal translation of Father Returns. And
Beautiful.
we do not have knowing ancestry of folks from that region. And we got mixed up in the Middle Passage like so many of us, and I don't know, 23andMe says I'm probably Nigerian. Sure, okay. But she found a book, and she was trying to build this bridge back to Africa that was, you know, destroyed with blood and extraction and all the things. And the book said, this is what this name means, and you could also infer the meaning as one, Father Returns. I'm sorry, I got a little tripped up in the story. She chose the Father Returns because she was trying to invoke her grandfather, who took her out to the land, who put her on a horse, who got her to spend time in the outdoors. And my mom grew up in DC, and DC was tough even then. My mom was in gangs. Like, she went through a whole life that's way more dynamic than mine. My life is very easy, relatively speaking. The book also said you could change the name Babatunde to Baratunde. That is not true. The Nigerians have told me that is not allowed, and I have told them we did it. Sorry, but that's a seminal moment because it's actually not my moment, but it's a moment that helped create my moments. My mother was seeking solace from a lot of pain and a lot of abuse at the hands of her own father, the words of her own mother and the choices of her own mother, and her grandparents were her sanctuary, and their land was a safe place. And so her invoking me and then physically bringing me out into these wild streets and enlisting me into the Boy Scouts and telling me to go outside and play, that was, I think, her way of trying to arm me with my own sanctuary as I came up in my version of mean streets. So yeah, there you go, Tyler.
Yeah, Tyler. And your mom is here too, so I'm sure she'll take some credit. Bill, I know you have one more question. I was going to say, though, I apologize to you and I think someone else I was talking to about their name for our boring names. Yours are so interesting.
Donna's a beautiful
All right,
name.
thank you very much.
Donna
Thank you.
And her last name?
Thurston. La Pietra.
La Pietra.
Pietra.
Okay.
Well, when the young lady couldn't pronounce it, I wanted to say that little moment should convince all the new brides, don't change your name, because somebody's going to misspell it or mispronounce it. I have a question for you. You're a reporter, you're Johnny Appleseed, and you go around and you see an awful lot of the climate change problems. And we've been getting our documentaries and the data coming in, stories being told for 20 years, good, in 88 we started measuring really the heat. And the glaciers are melting, we accept that. And the Southwest will be uninhabitable, we're told. And the heat, the temperatures are still going up. Ina, said, why should she go to Dubai when the temperature is 130 or 150, in the streets? Something is happening. I want you to go deep in what you've seen and maybe tell us, you have an opportunity now, because I have a fear that we're not getting it, that the masses are not that serious about climate change. They just don't, they haven't seen the final answer that will cause us to go out and buy that EV car and really do something about it. What would convince you, or how would you convince this group that climate change is real and we need to do something?
I know that this group knows that climate change is real. I think the way that it hits, for a long time we lived in anticipation of worst case scenarios. We looked at projections and predictions about how hot things were going to get and what that would mean for fire and water and earth and wind, and yes, that's also a great band if you shuffle the letters around. My mama's son, y'all, come on now. Thank you. There's always one who really gets it. We're in the forecast now. The floods this summer, the mudslides, the fires, the everything. You can pick a place. We're going to run out of placard space. The kind of cavalcade and cascade of tragedy and insert town name strong, which we use for mass shootings as well. Both of these challenges we have immense control over in terms of how we react to it. I think one of the things that I've seen out there, especially with the show, in terms of how this stuff hits, and that I hope will create more resonance for people, as opposed to like a polar bear, which is distant, or even water challenges, which may feel fleeting. Oh, the hurricane, but then we'll get recovery. There's another hurricane and more recovery. That's not sustainable, and the money's gonna hit harder, and we'll feel it then. But there is a more personal identity piece of the puzzle. And I hinted at it in my remarks here, but I'll go deeper for you, Bill. When we've done a little trick to ourselves, And we've denied a big part of ourselves, and so we've said we're okay. We've cut the earth off from ourselves and taken everything we thought we needed from it in money, but we left the soul. And so we're walking around here with a little less soul and a lot more money, thinking we're happy, but we're also alone. And that's connected too. Like, we're missing something, and it's not pharmaceuticals that are gonna fill that hole. It's us. And it's not just other people, it's all the life that is on this planet. Us, we are all evolved from the same stuff. Ultimately, we're so close. And when we feel that gap, sometimes I see people feeling it when it starts to change, when it starts to move, when your food changes, and the food is defined where you're from. When the hunting activities you used to do with your daddy and his daddy before him changes, when you can no longer grow the same things or wear the same things, what does it mean to live in the Chicagoland area? It means it's too damn cold in the winter. It's a very important part of living here. I don't know why you do it, but you do. That's changing. And our identities are these complex things. And they're just stories that we wrap around ourselves and justify after the fact. But one of the stories is an embodied one of how we experience the world. And when that gets taken away, we've seen what happens when that gets taken away economically. Folks get out in the streets. Folks vote for all kind of things out of fear and loneliness. And so there is a tragic possibility and then a hopeful one. They're always interconnected. That we will really feel the loss. That we will feel that this is not something that someone with an agenda is trying to sell me, or something that affects people over there, and I'm safe over here because my temperature's good or my growing season's okay. But that the definition of who and how we are is so unstable that we've got to reassert that definition and restabilize that environment to stabilize ourselves. I hope that we will use that instability as a chance to restabilize again and to undo some of the separation that we've caused, that we've invested in overly, that created the situation in the first place, and that we find ourselves beyond ourselves.
Very good.
Unbelievable.
Very good.